together. You all have this printout? Yeah. So we'll recite all the verses and just get the tune and the meter. And then slowly will come with your 10-15 days of practice. And we'll recite all the verses together today. And then later on, we will practice the first verse so that you'll get it right. So let's begin together. वाचोवेगं मनसा क्रोधवेगं जिह्वावेगमनुदरपस्तवेगम् एतान् वेगान्यो विषेतधीरः सर्वामपि मां पृथ्वीं सशिष्यात् अत्याहारप्रयासश्च प्रजनोन्यमाग्रह जनसङ्घश्च लौल्यं च तद्भिर्भक्तिर्विनश्यति उत्साहान् निश्चयात् धैर्यात् तत्तत्कर्म प्रवर्तनात् सङ्गत्यागः सतो वृत्तेः षड्भिर्भक्तिर्प्रसीदति दधाति प्रतिगृह्णाति गुह्यं नाभ्यानि पृच्छति भुङ्क्ते भोजने चैव षड्विधं प्रीतिलक्षणम् कृष्णेति यस्य विहितं मनसा क्रियेत दीक्षासि चेत् प्रणतभीष्टवचन्तमीशम् शुश्रूषया वचनवेद्यमनन्य निन्द्रादिशून्यरितिर्मिप्सितसङ्गलत्वा दृष्ट्वे स्वभावजनितेव पुश्च दोषे न प्राकृतत्वमिह भक्तजनस्य पश्ये गङ्गां वसां न खलु बुद्बुदफेन पङ्के ब्रह्मत्रपत्वम् अपगच्छति वीरधर्मे स्यात् कृष्णामचरिता विदिताप्यविद्या पीडितोपतप्तरसनस्य नरोचिकानु किन्त्वादरातनुदिनं खलु सेव दृष्ट्या स्वाद्विक्रमात् भवति तद्गदमूलहन्त्री तन्नामरूपचरितादिसुकीर्तनानो स्मद्योक्रमेण रसनां मनसि नियोज्य तिष्ठं व्रजेत अनुरागिजनानुगामि कालं नयेदखिलं वित्तोपदेशसारम् वैकुण्ठाच्चमितो वरा मधुपुरी तत्रागिरसोऽस्मात् वृन्दारण्यं उदारपाणिरमणा तत्राग्निगोधरतम् राधाकुण्डं विहाविमोदमते प्रेमामृतप्लावनात् पुण्यादस्य विराजितो गोवितटे सेवां विवेकिनतः कर्मिभ्यः परितो हरे प्रियतया व्यक्तिं ययुर्ज्ञानिनः तैभ्यो ज्ञानविमुक्तभक्तिपरमा प्रेमेकनिष्ठास्ततः तेभ्यस्ता पशुपालपङ्कजदृशस्तावो विसाराधिका प्रेष्टा तत्त्वमिहं तदीयसरसीतां नाश्रयेत् ककृति कृष्णस्योच्चये प्रणय वसति प्रियसेभ्योऽपि राधा कुण्डं चास्य मुनिभिरभितस्तादृक् एव व्याधायि यत् प्रेष्येरप्यलं वसुलभं किं पुनर्भक्तिभाजम् तत्प्रेमेदं सकृतं सरतः स्नातुराविष्करोति. So it has all specific meters, especially the first four verses of the same meter. So the best way to memorize is you have to know the finger art. Somebody has studied Sanskrit here. Somebody knows Sanskrit. Yeah. What is the methodology here?
Like the meters to recite?
Not the meters, the methodology to practice,
Uh,
to memorize.
I just remember like that. The formulas of
There's a formula given in the Sanskrit books. The first line, generally in the Gurukula, the first line, generally two practice together. The first line, no, you have to see it very carefully. And seeing it, you have to recite it. Vacho vegam manasa krodha vegam. And then the other, just try to focus. If you can just focus for a few seconds, when your interest and memory and concentration is there, it will go into the memory. So the first line you very carefully focus and recite it. Vacho vegam manasa krodha vegam vacho manasa. See, what did I say? I missed something, right? So when you're reciting, na, you will miss something. And when you miss, you will come to know. Are you getting this? So if you miss something, then you look. Otherwise, don't look. Vacho vegam manasa krodha vegam. 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 Generally, the next line is recited by the other partner. That's how in the Gurukul it happens. But if you don't have the partner, still it doesn't matter. Then you recite the second line. See it very carefully and then with concentration recite the second line. Jivva vegam mudarapasta vegam, jivva vegam mudarapasta vegam, jivva vegam mudarapasta vegam, jivva vegam mudarapasta vegam. You have to repeat it. It's an art, you have to practice it. And you have to hold your fingers because by the movement of your fingers, it is activating the particular area of the brain. You know? So, Jivva Vegam Mudarapasta Vegam. Together. Jivva Vegam Mudarapasta Vegam. Jivva Vegam Mudarapasta Vegam. Jivva Vegam Mudarapasta Vegam. Jivva Vegam Mudarapasta Vegam. Then you have to recite the first and the second line. Ajo vegam manasa krodha vegam, jivva vegam mudarapasta vegam. Ajo vegam manasa krodha vegam, jivva vegam mudarapasta vegam. Ajo vegam manasa krodha vegam, jivva vegam mudarapasta vegam. Vajo vegam manasa krodha vegam. Jivva vegam mudarapasta vegam. Vajo vegam manasa krodha vegam. Jivva vegam mudarapasta vegam. So now then the third line once, the fourth line once, the third and fourth once, then the entire verse, but all this takes not more than 3 minutes. And once you do it, actually it is written in your memory now. And the connection, first line to the second line, because you're doing that repetition, so that the link of the files is also there. So that's how you can memorize. And it requires a lot of patience. But if you can just use 3 minutes to tolerate yourself and not do any other activity, just focus, then it will remain in the memory. And then with practice, once you practice the first verse, then you go to the second. Now, while you're practicing the second, you have to first recollect the first. So when you recollect the first, what is written in the memory becomes more concrete. Like that, so it builds up. So like that, we'll try to practice all the verses. So we are on the first verse now. So yesterday, we began the discussion on the first verse, the 6 urges. We have completed the discussion on atonement, quite elaborately discussed on atonement in the morning class, right? And I hope it is very clear, Prabhupada, why he's speaking about Parikshat Sukhdev Samvad here. Although about 6 vedas it is being discussed. And one point I'd forgotten to discuss. Although Prabhupada recommends the easy process of taking shelter of a pure spiritual, pure devotee and following the 4 relatives, what about these other 7 processes? tapasya, brahmacharya, yamena, dhamena, satya. Do we practice them or no? Yes or no? Yes. But that is in the bhakti context. So for us, the tapasya is attending morning Mangalarti program, attending the Bhagavatam class. You know? And then Satya, we have to follow Satya so that we lead a pure life. So that will help us to take up to the practice of Shukra. So like that, all these other principles are included within Bhakti. There is no separate endeavor required, but at the same time, these principles are also important. That's one thing. Now, the 6 urges and pacification by Bhakti, we discussed in detail. Prabhupada gives a remedy that, the 6 urges have to be engaged in Krishna's service. Right? Prabhupada is speaking that from Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu. Rishikena, Rishikesha, Sevanam, Bhaktir. Because Amrit is Rasayan Samanya. Rasa is expanded in Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu. And then we went into the Anuvritti explanation. So today, in the first half of the class, we'll complete the Anuvritti and then we'll begin with the second text. So we saw Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur's Anuvritti explanation. He analyzes the Vedas, he categorizes them into 3 divisions. And from there he analyzes. This is another way of perspective of analyzing things to get a deeper insight into how to control the Vedas. Okay. So when we classify a particular thing from that perspective, then we have to see things from that perspective. Okay, and not mix 2 different perspectives. Okay, all helps in dealing with the urges. Okay, so we saw this. They're divided into 3: urge to speak, urge of the mind, and urge of the bodies. And within the urge of the body, there is the tongue, belly, and the genitals. And urge of the mind is mind and anger. Okay, so we saw that one who falls victim to this urges, his life becomes inauspicious. And practicing, restricting or resisting these demands is a tapasvi, by which we can overcome the victimization. Now we'll go to the urge to speak. So this is in summary. Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur says, useless nonsensical talk of the materialistic people and even karma kandis. The karma kandis speak about what? Heaven. Yamimam pushpitam vachya. Vedavadarata pranam. Partha. Astiti vadina, they say like that. Nanyat astiti vadina. There is nothing higher to be achieved. So all this talk is also what? Useless talk. It is the urge to speak. And then even the Mayavadi talk, when merging in impersonal Brahma. So talking and even talking through literatures. Many people, they want to be heard. My story. They write books, right? Or novels, right? That is all the urge to speak. So the counteraction again is to speak Krishna Katha. And Bhakti Thakur quotes 2 verses from the Narad Vyas Samvad, which is there in the first canto, 5th chapter. When we refer to the urge of speak, we refer to useless talking, such as that of the impersonal Mayavadi philosophers or the persons engaged in fruitive activities, technically called karma kanda, or of the materialist people who simply want to enjoy life without restrictions. So all these 3 categories he says. So we have put that in the chart, you see. All such talks or literatures are practical exhibitions of the urge to speak. Yesterday, you remember, I was telling that my experience traveling in the Bombay local, everyone was silent. What has happened? Transformation? No. It is their urge to speak because they are on their devices, mobile, they are reading. All that is also, in one sense, speaking. So that's why you should be very careful of what you speak. You should be very thoughtful. and then what you hear also, and what you browse, because all this will come in the category of urge to speak. So here, Bhaktisiddhanta set up to many. Many people are talking nonsensically and writing volumes of useless books, and all this is the result of urge to counteract this tendency. We have to divert our talking to the subject of Krishna. And Prabhupada quotes this. Let's recite this. Nayad vachas chitrapadam hare yasha jagat pavitram pranagrit karche tadvaya sanketam shakti manasa nayatra hamsa niramantu chikshaya. Those words which do not describe the glories of the Lord. Nayad vachas chitrapadam hare yasha, which alone sanctify the atmosphere of the whole universe. Jagat pavitram pranayit karhechit, are considered by saintly persons to be like a place of pilgrimage for the crowds. Tad Vayasam Tirtha. Vayasam Tirtha means what? Vayasam refers to crows. They are places of pilgrimage of the crows. Now, crows generally, it's a very radical example. They take pleasure in, refuse or dirt. And especially it is observed that if somebody vomits, even they eat that. That's why it's very heavy, very heavy chastisement Narada is giving. You know, that's what they take pleasure. And if you're taking pleasure in sense gratification, it is compared to that. Vayasam. So the Mahanasa, the Paramhamsas, they don't take pleasure. Since all perfect persons are inhabitants of the transcendental abode, na yatra hamsa nara nirmate nirmantya uchikshaya. They don't derive pleasure there. And then he quotes this next verse. Tatva visargo janadaga viplava yasmin pratishloka bhavatyattapi namamyanandasya yashoankitani Shrunvanti gayanti grananti sadhava. On the other hand, that literature which is full of descriptions of the transcendental glories of the name, fame, form, pastimes, etc., of the unlimited Supreme Lord, is a different creation. Tadvaga Visarga, full of transcendental words directed towards bringing out a revolution in the impious lives of the world's misdirected civilization. Tatva Visarga Janataga Viplava. Viplava means revolution. The Krishna conscious movement is a revolutionary movement. What revolution it brings? People who lead sinful life, they give up that sinful life activity and they take up to pure activities of Krishna consciousness. This is the revolution it creates. Hearing Krishna Katha, hearing Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita. So this is Janata Aga. Aga means sin. Viplava. This is the revolution it brings. So once I was traveling with the sannyasi and there was an advertisement. Courier, we deliver everything except sins. The sannyasi was pointing with this, our movement does. You're saying that, you know. Such transcendental literatures, even though imperfectly composed, Yasmin Pratishlok Abhavatyam are heard, sung, and accepted by purified men who are thoroughly Shrunvanti Gayanti Nati Sadhu. So these two verses he quotes. The conclusion is that only when we talk about devotional service to the Supreme Personality Godhead can we refrain from useless, nonsensical talk. We should always endeavor to use our speaking power solely for the purpose of realizing Krishna consciousness. So please mark this. Solely for what? This is turn. That's right. Solely. We have to use speaking power solely for What? Realizing Krishna consciousness. Okay, that's about the urge to speak. Now the Manasa Krodha Vegam has been taken by Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur together. And let us try to understand this. And then I will take up for questions. As for the agitations of the flickering mind, they are divided into two categories. With respect to the agitations of the flickering mind, they are into two categories. What is it? The first is called avirodha priti, or unrestricted attachment. And the other is called virodhyukta krodha, anger arising from frustration. Did you get it? What it means? One is avirodha priti, and the other is virodhyukta krodha. Okay. I'll give you some examples and just try to understand these examples, and then it will become more clear. Okay. What is avirodha priti? Priti means we understand attachment. Of course, it's not speaking about Krishna priti. In the material world, we have attachment. And avirodha. Avirodha means there is no virodha. Okay. So I'm just giving an example. Try to understand this example. The four Kumaras heard from Brahma about the Lord, and they wanted to have the darshan of the Lord. And they started going towards the Vaikuntha. And they were just having the preeti towards the Lord. So they were just moving at great speed from the first gate, second gate, third gate, fourth gate, fifth gate, sixth gate. At the seventh gate, they were stopped. So they were going with unrestricted attachment towards the Lord. Avirodha priti. But in that avirodha priti, there was a virodha. And because they were stopped, there was a virodha, and they became angry. So this is what is called as virodha yukta krodha. Another example to understand. Vishwamitra Muni was meditating for how many years? 60,000 years. And the senses have a virodha priti towards the sense objects. Right? He was trying to restrain. Indra was a little fearful that somebody is going to occupy the position. So he said to Menaka. And then Vishwamitra heard the sound of the ankle bells. Yesterday I was mentioning the effect of sound. It has effect on what? I said prana, the tactile senses get activated. From sound, everything becomes manifest. The whole material existence is manifested because of sound. And the whole material existence can be destroyed by sound of the Hare Krishna Mantra. So he heard the sound and then he started analyzing the sound. And now he wanted to see, because from sound, form also comes. He wanted to, I, I hope you're able to get how from sound form comes. Hmm? You all must be having experience, especially mothers. How many are mothers here? Okay. So if they hear their child's voice on the phone or something like that, the moment they hear the sound of their son's or daughter's name, what happens in the mind? The form immediately comes. So he saw the form, Megha, and he developed a Virod Priti. So His Holiness Radha Govind Maharaj says that one day Vishwamitra took his kamandalu and he was going for the morning Sandhya Vandana. So Megha asked, Swami, where are you going? He said, what do you mean? Every day morning, this is my daily duty, nitya duty, that I go for Sandhya Vandana. But she said, I have seen you do this for the last 10 years. What? For 10 years, being in your association, I forgot to do my Sandhya Vandana. Immediately what happened? Anger. Vinod Krodha. So he left the association of Menika and went again to meditate. And now this time, Indra said who? Rama. Right? And then he was sitting and meditating, and then he heard again the tangle bells sound, and he understood from his previous experience. So immediately he opened his eyes, and with anger he went burnt Rama. So avirodha priti and then virodhikta growth. So this is how it works. Okay. So now Prabhupada is going to give 3 examples of this. Kindly hear carefully and understand. Adherence to the philosophy of Mayavadis, belief in the fruitive results of the Karmavadis, and belief in plans based on materialistic desires are called avirodha priti. Did you get it? Hmm? So avirodha priti, the materialist, elect a leader because he'll satisfy their senses. They have avirodha priti towards certain things. And when he doesn't satisfy, there is virodhikta growth. Karmis, they have avirodha priti towards varga. But when, it's not that the karmis, just by performing their sadhana, they'll get results. They have to repeatedly perform sadhana for thousands of times. Hmm. So either they will, if one thing goes wrong in the yajna, no result, then the yajman becomes angry at the what? The Huta, the Pujari. Virodhyukta Krodha. Is it clear? And the Mayavadis, they have a Virodha Preeti towards what? To become one with God. And they experience frustration because you cannot become one with God. Or you cannot become God, frankly. Right? This is Mayavad philosophy, right? So ultimately, when this is Avirodha Preeti is not fulfilled, there is Virodhyukta Krodha. So 3 examples Prabhupada is giving. Jnanis, karmis, and materialistic planmakers generally attract the attention of conditioned souls. When the materialists cannot fulfill their plans and when their devices are frustrated, they become angry. Virodhyukta Kuru. And we all have experienced this in our Krishna consciousness. Yes or no? Yeah. I was once taking prasadam and the pujari who had done the altar seva, he had kept few gulab jamuns and he kept it in his cupboard. I was just silently taking prasadam, and another devotee came and he saw, oh, gulab jamuns, and he picked up and took away. And then this later pujari came. He had avirod preeti towards that. And the moment he saw that it is not there, what happened? Virodhikta krodh. Who took my gulab jamuns? So as long as we are not free from Vita Raga, Vita Bhaya, and Vita Krodha. Manmaya Mam Pasha. Bhavo Jnana Tapasa Putaman Bhavam Agati. 4.10 in the Bhagavad Gita. 4.10, I think, yeah. So this is Avirod Priti and Virodhita Krodha. Frustration of material desires produces anger. Okay. So when we become angry, we have to scrutinize within ourselves. Where is our Avirod Priti, because of which there was Virodhyukta growth coming. Okay. Okay. You have questions. Let us take the questions, but let me first summarize this. So, Avirodha Priti. And this is so there is control of the mind, Avirodha Priti, there is unrestricted attachment, Mayavad philosophy, Karmavadis, and materialist. And then because of that, there is Virodha Yukta growth. This is anger arising from frustration. Okay. So any questions you have on this? One. You have question? Yes.
Yes.
Two questions. Okay.
It means that anger is the byproduct of Avirud Priti along with Virod Youth Group.
No,
That's how it is
from
working.
Virodha Preeti comes Virodhita Krodh. When you have Virodha Preeti towards something, and when there is Virod, then Krodh manifests. ध्यायतो विषयान् पुंसान् संगस्तेषु पर संगात् संजायते काम and कामात् क्रोध विजयते.
But Prabhupada, in Prabhupada it is written, the first is called Avirod Priti, first cause of growth, and another is Virod Yukt growth. But we are seeing from your example that you have quoted that they are working simultaneously. Like both Maharaj are going with Avirod Priti, and there is no anger there. But when the Jai and Vijay will stop,
Let me try. What he said, Prabhupada is saying what he said.
as for the agitation of the flickering mind, they are divided into two divisions.
Yes.
The first is Avirod Priti
Yeah.
or unrestricted attachment,
Yeah.
and the other is called Virod Yukt Krodh,
Yes.
anger rising from the frustration.
Yes. So what's your question?
From these 3 or 4 lines, there are two ways to create or come in anger.
There are no two ways. Basically, the mind has these two sides. Just like raga and dvesh. Raga means avirodha priti. Raga means attachment, right? Avirodha priti is there. But when there is obstruction to that, then dvesh will manifest in the form of anger towards it.
I am telling same now. Why the anger is the product of both of these. Alone one cannot create anger. A person who have a growth priti towards something and something as an obstruction coming that way, then the anger manifests.
Yes.
Anger is the byproduct of Avirod Priti and the Virod Yukt growth. No.
Not and. By avirodha priti, when there is virodha, there is krodha. Virodha yukta krodha it is.
That anger is called Virod Yukt
Yukta krodha. Okay. Is it okay or no?
Only a Virod Priti cannot create anger. I am understanding this because something is
Please understand it. Even your avirodha priti
Mhm.
is what? Attachment.
Mhm.
That attachment is also an obstacle. But from that, how we understand when the anger manifests, then you understand the attachment. It is a subtle form, it's a shade, basically. It's another shade by which you can understand it. Are you getting this point or no? It takes some time. Even for me to understand that these three divisions of Mayavadis, Karmakandis, and Gyanis, three are there. Mayavadis, Karmakandis, and the materialist. All of them have a Virod Preeti towards their goals. And when there is Virodha, when there is frustration of that, there is Krodh. So it is basically the mind only has attachment to these things. And in the mind only, anger manifests. So that's why he is dividing Manasa and Krodha Vegam in one. You all have experience of this, yes or no? Hmm? Yes. Only thing we don't know how it functions internally. So here some hint is given in the Anuvritti commentary. Okay. Is it okay or no? Let me finish. Is it okay or no?
Or understand.
No, actually, I also want to add in this point. I have the same question. Actually, he spoke first that it is that the Virod Yukt Road becomes a subsequent part of the Avirod the Preeti, right? It is not the second part. Like Shri Prabhupada said, two divisions. That means it is really two parts. That is my question. Like, I was
Okay. You have a Virodha Preeti towards something. Okay. There is no Virodha. Does it mean that anger is not there? Are you getting this point or no? There is, or there is, you have avirod priti towards something, and there is no virod. You are able to fulfill that desire. That in a subtler way is deeply conditioning you. But when there is virod, you understand that there are internal obstacles. Attachment. That's why I mentioned Vita Raga, Vita Bhaya, and then Vita Krodha. All three you have to be free from. Avirod Priti is what? Vita Raga. So when does anger manifest? When there is virod. And that is why it is called as Virod Yukta Krodha. Okay? For now, you understand this much. Okay? There are basically two sides of the coin. Now, I'll just give you another simple example.
No,
This is
you again put my example, and then I will ask you how they are separately. You are connecting in every example both are in the same. So you are putting a Virod Priti and Virod growth in the same to in every example. They are not giving the. My question is, a Virod Priti should give anger, and Virod Yukt growth should can give anger. The byproduct anger. The product of a Virod Priti is anger, and Virod Yukt growth is Virod Yukt growth also give product as anger. But
no, you are, hold on. That's not the understanding. Avirod Preeti doesn't give rise to anger. Only when that Avirod Preeti, there is a Virod. And that Virod Yukta is Krodha. Hold on.
I'm doing the same thing. They are simultaneously working together to create anger.
Prabhuji, hold on. It takes time to digest. I'm just giving a simple example. Hate is another side of what? No attachment. Say like both sides of the coin there. It's like both sides of the coin, head and tail. So similarly, there are these two divisions of the mind. Avirodha Priti and then Virodhayukta Krodha. Okay. It will take some time. Avinash Prabhuji. Okay. Huh? Is it okay or no? What is your question, Mataji?
I was also going the same because it has given two divisions, and but before it was an example, the first one was the first, second was the outcome, like we give you the entrance. It was falling into one line, not the becoming the two different causes. That was the same. The question he had was my question too. But
Okay. Avirodh Priti leads to what? Virodhyukta
yeah, like it's
Krodha.
one line. It's like subsequent result it is forming. Krodha is a result as a like that. Like a growth maybe someone has. But a little bit Krodha came, the result to become happen, Virodhyukta Krodha. It's one reason, one line. But what happened to others? Like how like it's the same thing I was saying, like what he's saying. That was like maybe understanding.
So this mind has two divisions. Yeah.
Like the two.
There is Raga and the other side is Dvesh. And both you have to become free from. Raga Dvesha Vimukta Vishayan Indriyascharan Atma Vashaya Vidyatma Prasadam Adi Gachan 2.64 in the Bhagavad Gita. Okay? So these are two divisions. Okay? Fine. Okay, now the last one among the urges of the body. In the urges of the body, you have any questions? Any clarifications? Okay, raga means attachment, as I mentioned. Raga means attached. You are attached to something, and you're having attachment to a particular thing, and that attachment, that object of attachment, somebody takes it away from you. Then you become angry. Anger is an emotion. or you become jealous, or become envious. So that is the emotion, right? So that's why Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita includes all the emotions in two categories only, Raga and Dvesh. Within this, all the emotions will fall. Jealousy, envy, not like, dislike, everything. So generally we have to become free from these two sides. So they're like both sides of the coin. Okay. So now the third, the third classification, the urges of the body, within which there is the tongue, belly, and the genitals. That was analyzed. Similarly, the demands of the body are divided into three categories: the demands of the tongue, the belly, and genitals. One may observe that these three senses are physically situated in a straight line, right? And as far as the body is concerned, and that the bodily demands begin with the tongue. So it begins with tongue. So if you can control your tongue, you can control your belly, and then you can control your, all three fall in a straight line. This is spiritual technology. So the tongue is compared to a rudder of a ship, right? Just a small instrument, the rudder. You know what is the rudder, right? And just by turning the rudder, you can control the entire movement of the ship in a particular direction. Similarly, just by controlling the tongue, jiva vegam, you can change the course of direction of your traveling in this material world in the 14 planet systems and end up in the highest abode of the Lord, Goloka Vrindavan, and the what? Holiest of the holiest places, that is Sri Radha Kund. That's what is meaning. If we can restrain the demands of the tongue by limiting its activities to eating of prasadam, the urges of the belly and genitals are automatically controlled. So demands of the body are urges of the tongue, urges of the belly, urges of the genitals. And all three can be controlled by eating prasad. That is the secret. And then Prabhupada quotes this entire Mahaprasad prayers. So let us recite together. Sharira Vidyajha Jadendriya Ahekar Jive Prete Vishya Sadare Anmate Jivati Gurmaya Surmati Take Cheta Katina Samsare Krishna Vardan Dharamaya Kari Vane Jivanja Swaprasadana Vilobai Seryana Yatpao Radha Krishna Yatpao Prematapo Chaitanyita Jai Nimai Jai Nitai. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur in the song, now some important aspects about this prayer we will chant while taking the Mahaprasad. I saw once one devotee, he came to take prasadam. There was a Mahaprasadic prayer written on the board. He just offered pranams and started taking. You don't even have the patience. So this prayer has to be chanted in a very prayerful manner because it is a sadhana and anand. And when we pray in such a prayerful mode, that the sharir is what? Avidya. And Jadendriya Tahikal, these senses are very, very strong. And they Jiva Fele Vishesagre, they toss this Jiva in the Vishesagar, this material world. And among them, Taramade Chapati, Lopomaya Sudravati, Take Jeta Katina Samsara. It is very difficult to control the tongue. In fact, in the Uddhav Gita, it is mentioned that if one fast, one does fasting, what will happen? All the senses will become weak, but the tongue will become more strong. And you cannot even control the tongue by fasting. One of my friend devotee told me that 1 month in Kartik, he decided to not eat sweet rice because that was his favorite item. And at the end of the Kartik Vrata, that day night he prepared an entire mud pot of sweet rice, kept it on the top of the floor. Next day morning, entire breakfast was sweet rice. So it is mentioned in the Uddhav Gita that the more you fast, the tongue becomes more voracious. It doesn't become weak. So you can control all other senses by fasting, but the tongue still cannot be controlled even by fasting. So my question to all of you is, and how can the tongue control? Yes, Bhupeji. Okay, interesting. What is your answer? Anyone else? Yes.
By chanting those
By chanting constantly. And let me add more to it. Only by Nam Ras. Only by what? Nam Ras. Only when you relish the Nam Ras, then the Jiva can give its Ras of Vishaya. Otherwise, there is no other remedy. Vishwan Sakataka writes in the commentary. There's no way.
glorification of
If,
Lord.
if one can control the tongue, he can control the whole world. Please remember. Yes, it all includes the Nama.
What be able to constant chanting.
But ultimately, it's constantly chanting means it has different meanings.
Also puts the glorification.
Hold on. It has different meanings. Chanting constantly means that you chant the pure holy names. And if you chant 16 rounds of the pure holy names, you are always Kirtaniya, Sada, Hari. All the day you can be constantly internally absorbed by doing service also. And Nam Kirtan means also Guna Kirtan, Leela Kirtan, Roop Kirtan, all these it includes. So let me finish this section and then we'll take. Okay. Prabhupada further describes there are 6 kinds of rasas, and if one is agitated by any one of them, some people like what? Salty items. Some people like sweet items. Some people like chili items. Right? Yes. I saw one of my friend just eat chilies, and not, one or two, an entire small packet, almost half kg chilies. So, based on the modes influence, we have these 6 rasas, which is called a Shadab Ras Bhojan. And all should be there in the prasad. But if one is agitated by one of them also, Prabhupada says he becomes controlled under the urges of the tongue. Some persons are attracted to eating of meat, fish, crabs, eggs, and other things produced by semen and blood eaten in the form of dead body. This is tamasic. Others are attracted to eating vegetables, creepers, spinach, or milk products, but all for the satisfaction of the tongue's demands. This is sattvic. Such eating for sense gratification, including the use of extra quantities of spices like chili and tamarind, is to be given up by Krishna conscious persons. So extra use of what? Chilies, tamarind, khatamita. And if you're using these extra quantities, Prabhupada is speaking very precise. He's speaking of what? No, he's not just saying chili and tamarind. He's saying what? Extra quantity. That means it should be there in the right quantity, but extra quantity, has to be given up by Krishna conscious persons. If you don't give up it, what will happen? you will not become Krishna conscious. That's it. That's what is Prabhupada saying here. The use of pan, haritaki, hataki, it is called. Betel nuts, various spices used in pan making, tobacco, LSD, marijuana, opium, liquor, coffee, and tea is indulged in to fulfill his set. Now, here I would like to make it clear pan, within the pan, there are masalas added, and especially there is betel nut. And betel nut is an intoxicant. You can eat a pan leaf because pan leaf is herb. It's Ayurvedic medicine. But within the pan, all these, masalas which are added, especially the betel nut, the betel nut which is added, that is an intoxicant. And then hataki is haritaki. Okay. Now, why does Prabhupada mention haritaki? And I don't know whether we all know what is haritaki.
No, we don't.
No. Okay. How many of you know what is triphala? Triphala, you know. So triphala has 3 ingredients: haritaki and amala, and one more is what? Huh? One more is what? Harda is haritaki. Harda is haritaki. So it's 3 phala. Taki, then only you'll understand it. So it's basically a huh? Bibithaki. Yes, it is Bibithaki. No, Harda, I have to say fruit when it comes. Yes, this is Harda fruit. So why does Prabhupada specifically refer to Haritaki? Why does Prabhupada refer? I spoke to many senior devotees, and one of the answers which was very convincing for me is actually, Haritaki is also taken after food as a digestive aid because it helps in digestion. So we overeat and then eat haritaki in order to compensate. So that's why Prabhupada says also haritaki. So bibitaki, amla, and haritaki, all the 3. So Prabhupada is referring to that also. If we practice accepting only remnants of food offered to Krishna, it is possible to get free from Maya's victimization. Only remnants offered to Krishna. Vegetables, fruits, milk, grains, fruits, milk products, and water are the proper foods to offer to Lord Krishna as Lord Krishna prescribes himself. So all these items Prabhupada has mentioned are in the mode of goodness. However, if one accepts prasadam only because it is palatable taste and thus eats too much, he also falls prey to trying to satisfy the demands of the Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu taught us to avoid very palatable dishes even while eating prasadam. If we, however, offer palatable dishes to the deity with the intention of eating such nice food, we are involved in trying to satisfy the demands of the tongue. So one Italian devotee was telling one of our leaders that he likes pizza and he makes his own pizza. He's got his own, but he makes his own cheese. And Mahaprabhu did not come to Italy, so he doesn't know the taste of pizza. So Mahaprabhu likes what? Shark. So like that, what we like, we can still prepare an offer to the deities, but that will not be considered as pure devotion. It will be yad karoshi yadashanashi. Tat kurusva madarpan. It will be mixed devotion. Prabhupada is speaking from the pure devotional perspective here. So these are the 6 kinds of rasas: ignorance, passion, goodness, pan, haritaki, and then receiving palatable food at rich man's house or taking food only for the taste of the tongue. What does a feast in this devotee's house? And this family now prepares What nice fried items. So let me go there. So if you do that, then we are in the. If we accept the invitation of a rich man with the idea of receiving palatable food, we are trying to satisfy the demands of the चैतन्य चरितामृत से जिह्वार लालसा ये इति उति धाय शिष्णोदर परायण कृष्णमयी आय. He is not Narayan Parayan, he is Shishnodara Parayan. That person who runs here and there seeking to gratify his palate and who is always attached to the desires of the stomach and genitals is unable to attain Krishna. You might attain what you would like to have, but you will not attain Krishna. As stated before, the tongue, belly, and genitals are all situated in a straight line and they fall into the same category. Lord Chaitanya said, Balna khaive or balna pariyu. Do not dress luxuriously and do not eat delicious. So this is in summary, has to be given a satisfaction to accepting prasad only because it is palatable, eating too much. And that's how by only eating prasadam, the urges of the tongue can be controlled. Those who suffer from diseases of the stomach must be unable to control the urges of the belly, at least according to this. So this is for our observation. If we are having problems with the stomach, maybe we are having what? We are not able to control the urges of the tongue. This is a big problem in this world today. Obesity is a big problem in the Western world, right? Right? That's because of uncontrolled tongue. When we desire to eat more than necessary, we automatically create many inconveniences in life. However, if we observe fasting days like Ekadasi and Janmashtami, we can restrain the demands of the belly. So, which is a belly, eating more than necessary, the solution is observing fast. Now, the last, Upastabindam. As far as the urges of the genital are concerned, they are two, proper and improper, legal and illegal or illicit. When a man is properly mature, he can marry according to the rules and regulations of the Shastras and use his genitals for getting nice children. This is legal and religious. Dharmo vriddha bhuteshu kamosmi bharatash. Otherwise, he may adopt many artificial means to satisfy the demands of the genitals and he may not use any restraint. When one indulges in illicit sex, as defined by the Shastras, either by thinking, planning, talking about, or actually having sexual intercourse, or by satisfying the genitals by artificial means, he is caught in the clutches of Maya. So, illicit and licit. For licit, Prabhupada says, begetting Krishna conscious children after having married. That is control of the genitals. And for the satisfaction of lust, either thinking, planning, or talking. So it's from subtle to gross. Then actually engaging or satisfying my artificial demands. So that is why in the first class I mentioned, Upasta refers not only, the gross thing, but it is a subtle desire in the heart. These instructions apply not only to householders, but also to Tyagis, who are in the renounced order of life. In the book Prema Varta, chapter 7, Sri Jagannath Pati says, Vairaki bhai grama katana shunibe kane, grama varta na kahibe abe mile vyane, स्वप्ने ओ ना करे भाई स्त्री संभाषण गृहे स्त्री छाड़िया भाई हसियाचे वन यदि चाय प्रणय राखिते गौरंगे रसने छोटा हरिदास रे कथा था के ये न मने भाल ना खाए आर बाल ना परिवे हृदय ते राधा कृष्ण सर्वदा सेवे. So Prabhupada quotes from the Prema chapter 7, Jagannath Pandit. This is for especially the renounced order. Vairagya Bhai, my dear brother, you have renounced, you are in the renounced order of life and should not listen to talk about ordinary worldly things. Gramya Katha, Nashu. Now, Gramya Katha refers to the talk about senses and sense objects or sense gratification. And these are all the talks which happen in the world. everywhere. Nor should you talk about worldly things when you meet others. Do not think of women even in Swapna or Paraya. You have accepted the renouncement of life with a vow that forbids you to associate with women. If you wish to associate with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, you must always remember the incident of Chota Haridas and how he was rejected by the Lord. So this is there in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. Do not eat luxurious dishes or dress in fine garments, but always remain humble and serve their Lordship Shri Shri Radhakrishna in your heart of hearts. Now, the end conclusion comes. The conclusion is that one who controls these six items, speech, mind, anger, tongue, belly, and genitals, is to be called a Swami, or Swami means master, and Goswami means the master of the senses. When one accepts the renouncement of life, he automatically assumes the title Swami. So Swami means one who has controlled his senses. This does not mean that he is the master of his family, community, society, but he must be the master of his senses. Unless one is the master of the senses, he should not be called Goswami, but Godas, servant of the senses. And Prabhupada says very interestingly, yeah, the next statement after Prahlad Maharaj. Following in the footsteps of the six Goswamis, then all Swamis and Goswamis should fully engage in the transcendental service of the Lord. As opposed to this, the Bodhas engage in the service of senses or in the service of the material world. They have no other engagement. Prahlad Maharaj has further described the Bodhas as Adantago. Dantago means one who has controlled the senses. Adantago means one who has not controlled them, which refers to one whose senses are not controlled. And now Prabhupada says, an Adantago cannot become the servant of Krishna. So we are all aspiring to become Krishna's servant. So if you want to become a servant of Krishna, you have to become what? Goswami. Simple. You have to become a Goswami. Because without becoming a Goswami, you cannot become a servant of Krishna. Then Prabhupada quotes this, Mati Krishne Parata Svatova Mito Vipadne Tagraha Pratana Adhanta Gobe Vishatanta Mishram Punascharvita Charvanana. So for those who have decided to continue their material existence in this material world for the gratification of their senses, Griha Pratana, they have taken the vrata that they will enjoy in this material world. There is no chance of becoming Krishna conscious. Not by personal endeavor, Parata, by instruction of others, Satova, or by joint conferences, Mito Abhiparivati. They are dragged by the unbridled senses into the darkest region of ignorance. Adanta Gopir Vishata Tamisha. And thus they madly engage in what is called chewing the chew. Puna Punash Charvita Charvanana. Material sense gratification is chewing the chew. What once you have that experience, first time, you feel that pleasure. The next time you want to enjoy that, the pleasure comes down and it keeps on coming down and down. It never increases. That is what is material pleasure. So that's how Prabhupada controls his purport of the Anuvritti Tika. So any questions you have on the Anuvritti Tika? Of course, we have discussed Vachu Vegam and Manasa Vegam. Then Manasa and Krodha regarding the urges of the body. It is tongue, belly, and genitals. Do you have any questions on this? One, two. Okay, two questions. Yes, give the mic.
Because you have set the standard. You have set the standard here, like what
I have not set any standards.
You have
I'm just
to-
repeating what Prabhupada is saying.
They've taught us what the Prabhupada has set the standard, like we should do this thing, we should all those things. Like, and but we have to be practical, like, you know.
So Prabhupada is not practical.
He is practical, but you know, we are very.
We want to adjust Prabhupada's Bhakti Vedanta Parapursanti.
I didn't mean to say that, but actually sometimes being the neophyte stage knows to enjoy.
So Deshamrit is written for advanced devotees. It's written for whom? Neophytes. So what's your question now? No. Ask the question.
Let's think about it more than ask you question.
No. I'll get your question first. Basically, this is the standard you're saying. It's very high, right? And we are in the beginning stages, right? Yes. So how to come to the standard? So first thing we need to have a right attitude. Krishna consciousness depends on the attitude of the follower. You have to have the right understanding of the philosophy and the right attitude. Now, this is the standard. This is the standard to enter into what? Bhakti. Vaidhi sadhana bhakti. Right in the first verse it's mentioned. Right? So just like this in school you have done this jumping race, where there is a pole and you run and then you jump. Now when it is at a very high height, what happens? It's difficult. But what do? You go back and then you take pace, right? And then you with that pace you pick the momentum and then you jump, right? So similarly, the standards might be very high. Prabhupada makes a very remarkable statement, and we should understand this. Understand the emotion what we are going through. So Prabhupada in the Yeme Madamidam Nityam Krutishtanti Manava 3.31. Yes. In the beginning of Krishna consciousness, one may not fully discharge the injunctions of the Lord. But because one is not resentful to the principle, resentful is an emotion. And why is this standard so high? You start saying, this is the emotion. Why is this standard so high? Why they have kept so high standard? I cannot do it. I'll not make it. That is another level. That is another extreme. Why is the standard too high? Or I just cannot make it. That's a negative aspect. This is a negative emotion. So if one is not resentful to this principle and works, what? Sincerely. Without consideration of defeat and hopelessness. So what happens when the standard is very high? You jump and you're not able to cross the other side. You go from this side. Oh, I just cannot make it. You feel what? Hopeless. Right or no? Oh, there is no hope for me. This is also a kind of negative emotion. So one should be sincere. You have to understand this is the standard. I am here, but let me be very sincere and follow the instructions of my spiritual master, follow the instructions given by Prabhupada, and then gradually come to that platform. One will not be able to fully discharge it, but one is aiming at that. It's not that, the standard is this. Okay, I cannot follow this. Let me bring this down to my level. No, that's not how we practice Krishna. The acharyas set the standard. Okay, so this sutra you should remember. So this addresses your question.
This is the right attitude.
Yeah, this is the attitude we should have. Okay, is that clear? Yes, Mataji. You have a question. Give the mic there.
Can I speak?
Yeah, but others cannot hear. No?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. My question was in regards to fasting. You mentioned that when we fast, like our tongue gets stronger. But then the remedy for the belly is to fast on festivals like Ekadashi. So how do we reconcile?
No, with respect to the good question, with respect to controlling the stomach, it is always better to regulate the stomach by fasting. In fact, every day if you can fast for 15 hours, that means you take prasadam at evening before 6. Next day morning you take at 9 o'clock. You fast for how many hours? 15 hours. The body cells are, it allows it to fully regenerate. You know, you can take water morning, that's not a problem. So the more you fast, the body also gets regulated, and that helps to control the belly. But among these senses that cannot be controlled even by fasting. In fact, the tongue becomes more voracious. It becomes more strong. I don't know whether you had experience with this, but the acharyas explain, and I have heard from others' experience. And I'll give you one example. I was giving talk on this. So a devotee after the talk, he said that, my mother was hospitalized and she had severe stomach troubles. And her condition was she was in the ICU and she was now brought to the ward. And the doctor had strictly told, no cooked food much, only rice water, because the condition is very critical. So for a few days, the daughter was serving, only rice ganji. But she had attachment for what? Samosas. I don't know why samosa comes always. She really had attachment for samosas. And then she started asking the daughter, can you get samosas? She said, no, strictly doctor has told, I will not because it is very harmful. So then she was not agreeing. And then after a few days, she started pleading. She said, at least you get the samosas and in front of me, please sit and you eat. Let me, what? See you eating and take pleasure. This is the reality. So that's how the tongue becomes what? More voracious. So the only solution Vishwanath Chakravarti tells is one gets namras, then he can become free from the Jivavenu.
Also depends on the attitude as well. So if we fast and then we engage our tongue in chanting the Lord's name, the very good time, so then the experience might be different. Is it? Because I had a different experience. I fasted for a few times, but it helped me to detach.
Yes, that is helpful. That the real purpose of fasting is to reduce the bodily needs and cultivate more spiritual activities. That's the real purpose. But ultimately, you have to understand, even by fasting, you cannot control the tongue. That's the point. Okay? Yeah.
The last was grounding with fellowship with that. That was you said that it was Jagadan, but that was Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's instruction to Srila.
Yeah, but Jagadanath Pandit has written a work called as Prema Vivarta, and there also very similar words come. Grama Varta. There are verses spoken by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to Raghunath Swami. They are very similar. But this is a Bengali composition. That is also a Bengali composition, but there the verses are different. Okay? But this is in Prema. Taste will gradually come. Gradually it will come. And then slowly, tongue will be controlled. So it happens gradually, kramat. But if we are not chanting with adar, that means there is inattention while chanting, then the tongue will become more voracious for kind of information over a period of time.
But we still are endeavoring to at least chant, so how would the drum be more variations?
But still we are what?
Endeavoring to at least chant.
Yeah. So when we are endeavoring, gradually we get some taste. And that taste is what is maintaining our Krishna consciousness. Yes or no? We are all here. Why, Because we have relished some taste. Yes or no? That's why we are all here. And that one experience you had, just one glimpse of that experience can sustain your entire life in Krishna consciousness. It can sustain your entire life in Krishna consciousness. So that is what is pushing us ahead in spiritual life. And if we sincerely endeavor and try to control the tongue and tongue by chanting the holy name, Adara, then gradually we will experience positive results. Is it okay? Okay, so now we'll go to the text 2. We'll just begin text 2 today.
Sorry,
Yes, Vintage.
let's clarify about again the attachment. Attachment and hunger. So when it comes to attachment, it's the mind's attachment to something that gives us pleasure.
The mind has attraction towards those things.
Yeah, so that's that. And then anger is when something is an obstacle.
Obstructing that attachment.
Okay. That's why you're saying it's on the opposite of
Other side. Virodha Yukta Krodha. Okay. Fine. So text 1 is over. We go to text 2. Let's recite the words together. अत्याहारप्रयासश्च प्रचलितोऽयमाग्रहः जनसङ्गश्च लौर्यं च षड्भिर्भक्तिर्विनश्यति. Atyahara is ati ahara, overeating or too much collecting. We'll come to this concept of atyahara very soon. Prayasa, over endeavoring. It's not endeavoring, it is over endeavoring. And prajalpa, ideal talk. Niyam agraha, rules and regulations, too much attachment, or agraha, too much neglect of. So we'll come to again this a little later. Niyam agraha and niyam agraha. Janasanga, associating with worldly minded persons. And laulyam, ardent longing or greed. Shadvi, the 6, bhakti, devotional service. Vinashati. Nashati means to be destroyed. Vinashati means completely destroyed. So we have to be very careful. Either all the 6 or even one of them. If you just keep on doing prajalpa, you'll slowly be going out of the spiritual life. And you don't know how you're going out of. So you have to be very careful because Sadhve Bhakti Vinashati it is which. Prabhupada. When once devotional service is spoiled, when it becomes too entangled in the following 6 activities, eating more than necessary or collecting more funds than required, atyahara, overindulging for mundane things that are very difficult to obtain, prayas, talking unnecessary about mundane subject matters, prajalpa, practicing the scriptural rules and regulations only for the sake of following them and not for the sake of spiritual advancement, or rejecting the rules and regulations of the scriptures and working independently or whimsically. So Prabhupada gives a whole explanation of niyamagra, the 2 meanings here. Associating with worldly minded persons who are not interested in Krishna consciousness, Janasanga, and being greedy for mundane achievements. So as we had discussed in the overview of Uddesha Amrit, text 2 speaks about what? Bhakti Pratikul Sharma. when one is endeavoring to control the six urges, as Prabhuji was explaining, when one is endeavoring, he has to come to the standards, right? So what does endeavor mean? Endeavor means abhyas. It's not that, you have to uh, compete in the high jump race, and the standard is this high, and next day you go directly for the high jump race. Do you do that? Years of practice, net practice, cricketers do now. That's how they become famous. So you have to practice first this level. Then after that, go to next level, next level, next level, and then you go for the competition, right? So similarly, one has to do abhyas of studying Updeshamrit for years together and trying to understand it by hearing and then studying it. By hearing, we can only catch maximum 20 or 25%. By hearing and then studying it, you can catch 50%. And then by hearing, studying, and repeating it, doing kirtan of it, then you can catch 75%, like that. So, like that, you do abhyas, and then you are able to control the urges. You become self controlled, fully practiced in the six vegas. Then you are having the symptoms of a madhyamadhikari, you know, Atma Sayami, self controlled madhyamadhikari. And he is very careful to follow, not fall prey to the six faults. Are you getting this point? He is careful not to fall prey to the six faults. And he's always cultivating the six qualities. So the six faults have been mentioned. So for us, we have to study and understand what the six faults is. And we might be falling prey to these. Yes or no? Okay, so that's the point. Bhakti Pratikul Shadman. Atyahara is ati ahara, overeating or too much collecting. Many think it refers to overeating. But already Rupa Goswami has mentioned Vacho Vegam, Manasa Krodha Vegam, Jibva Vegam, Udarapasta Vegam, Etan Vegan Yu Vishaya Dhira, Sarvam Apimam Pratvim Se Shishyat. The urge of the tongue is desire to taste food stuff, and the urge of stomach is desire to overeat. And he has already spoken about it. So why would he again repeat it? Being a grave Goswami. Why would I again repeat it here? So Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, Atyahara principle meaning eating or overeating. But ahar means also to enjoy the senses. Ahar, what is the senses for the eyes? Form. What is the ahar for the ears? Sound. So like that. Atyahara means giving too much ahar to the senses. That is atyahara, the deeper meaning. So here Rup Goswami is meaning this and not too much overeating. Because that he has already covered in verse 1. So form by the eyes, sound by the ears, smell by the nose, taste by the tongue, touch by the skin. So how do we spiritualize the ahar of the senses? For the eyes, see the beautiful form of the deities, temples, scriptures, holy places, spiritual dramas, spiritual wisdoms. For the ears, hear scriptures, songs, lectures and conversation. For the nose, smell tulsi flowers, sandalwood, which is all about. For the tongue, it is kirtan and prasad. For the touch, actually, we are on the bank of Yamuna. And just the air which is flowing from the bank of Yamuna and touching us can grant pure devotion. So what is mentioned about Vrindavan is the dust of Vrindavan, because Krishna has walked here. And the Yamuna river which was there even during Krishna's pastime, and the air. Just by coming in contact, we can just attain pure devotion. So the air, pure water, body of a Vaishnava, just touching them purifies us. Then the soft bed offered to the Lord for his shahin, and association of a chaste woman for propagation of God-centered family life. Times, Ekadasi and festival, places, Vrindavan, Navdeep, Puri and Shai. So this is how we spiritualize the ahars. Now, coming to the root cause of Atyahar. No? Atyahar, why does one do Atyahar? Because there is emptiness in the heart. Because there is no love for Krishna. And this emptiness of the heart is misdirected to the stomach by overeating. Some people just by eating they feel happy. You know that, right? Happiness is the affair of the heart, and that is misdirected by filling the belly. And sometimes, people collect a lot of things at home. You know, I went to an industrialist and he had only 500 shoes in his shoe rack. So this emptiness of the heart is by collecting things, filling the house or filling the belly or filling with the head with many, many degrees. Some people do 25 PhDs. Recently, I heard somebody has done some 100 PhDs and now also is writing some exam. So all this is because of what? The emptiness of the heart, which is misdirected, and that's why this is a root cause of Atyahar. So Bhaktir Pratikul Shadgun, the 6 items which are unfavorable for Bhakti. Atyahara, Prayasa, Prajalpa, Niyamagra, Janasanga. But the root is what? Atyahara. Please try to understand this. And that Atyahara root, emptiness of the heart, I spoke about filling the house. You feel satisfaction of the heart seeing the house filled with all these. His Holiness Giriraj Swami Maharaj, I don't know where he narrates, what inspired him in spiritual life was, he's coming from a very rich family, you know that, right? So once he was having his breakfast, just before joining Krishna consciousness, and he had a sister, and sister was very upset with the father because she gave a proposal that she wants another dress, and the father rejected it because she had already had 300 dresses in her wardrobe. And she was so upset that she could not take her breakfast. And she was fighting. Giriraj Maharaj was observing all this. Just for one. So that emptiness of the heart, when it is misdirected to filling the house or filling the belly, because of that, Atyahar leads to what? Prayers. And when you have to do endeavor in that, then you have to speak about that topic. So that will lead to what? Prajal. And then when you do that, then you will not be able to follow the regulative principles. So niyamagra. And then because the emptiness has to be fulfilled and you have to endeavor, you will have to associate with materialistic janasanga. And then why are you doing that? Ultimately because of greed, lobha. So there is a linear, flow here, what you can see. Atyahar leads to prayas, prajalpa, niyamagra, janasanga and lavya. Atyahar can directly also lead to lobha. Are you getting this point? So Prabhupada connects in his purport Atyahar directly to lobha. Because why? What we should be greedy for? We should be greedy for what? Krishna Katha, Krishna Kirtan. But the greed what we have for material things is because of the root is atyahar. So atyahar can directly also lead to what? Lobha. But generally it also has a logical flow. Atyahar leads to prayas, prajam, nipagra, janasanga, lavlya. Okay. Are you getting this? The Prabhupada in the purport will first directly speak about atyahar, how it leads to direct lavlya. Okay. Any questions you have about this up till now about the text two, which is going to come up? Okay. Now this is a long purport. There are 26 paragraphs. So Prabhupada in paragraphs 1 to 5 speaks about simple living and high thinking and 6 faults. Okay. So paragraph 1 is human life is meant for. That is paragraph 1. Paragraph 2 is the word Mahatma. That was 2. And paragraph 3 is in the above quoted verse from the Bhagavad Gita. And paragraph 1, 2, 3, 4, and paragraph 5 is the main problem confronting the conditioned souls is repeated birth and death. That is fifth. Fourth is indeed all living entities within this material world. So this first 5 paragraphs, Prabhupada is speaking about simple living and high thinking and 6 faults. So Prabhupada's purport begins, human life is meant for plain living and high thinking. Simple living and high thinking. Now again, if you see, what is the connection? Prabhupada is speaking about simple living, high thinking, and what it has to do with 6 faults. What is the connection? So it will come up in the purport. So let's see. So Prabhupada wanted to establish farms. That is his, 50% of his, desire to be fulfilled. Why? Because by living in the farms, life becomes simple. And you can chant, you'll get time to chant Hare Krishna, you can perfect your life. So simple living and high thinking means simply living to love Krishna, and high thinking means to study Bhakti Shastri, Bhakti Vaibhav, and Sadhguru. Because only in that kind of an environment you can understand philosophy. Are you getting this point? You need sattva to understand philosophy. So that's why that is high thinking. Since all conditioned souls, living beings are under the control of the Lord's third energy, this material world is designed so that one is obliged to work. We are all living in the Bhairanga Shakti, and one is obliged to work. The Supreme Personality of Godhead has 3 primary energies or potencies. Which are 3 primary energies? External energy, internal energy, and marginal energy. Antaranga Shakti, Bhairanga Shakti, and Tatastha Shakti. The Lord has unlimited potencies, but they are primarily classified into 3. Okay? The first is called the Antaranga Shakti, the internal potency. The second is called the Tatastha Shakti, the marginal potency. Third is called Bhairanga Shakti, the external potency. The living entities constitute the marginal potency, and they are situated between the internal and external potencies. Being subordinates as eternal servants of the Supreme Personality Godhead, the Jivatmas, the atomic living entities, must remain under the control of either the external or the internal potency. When they are under the control of the internal potency, they display their natural constitutional equity, namely constant engagement in devotional service to the Lord. So the Jivatma is the marginal potency. One side is the external potency, Vairanga Shakti, other side is the Antaranga Shakti. Okay? Please try to understand this. The Jivatma is marginal. Right now he is under what? Bhairanga Shakti. And by our practice of Krishna consciousness, what are we trying to do? Trying to do? From the Bhairanga Shakti, we are trying to go to the Antaranga Shakti. And the best way to go from the Bhairanga Shakti to the Antaranga Shakti is what? Interesting. The best means. Prabhupada has told it already in the purport, we have read it.
Spiritual master.
Hmm?
Spiritual master.
Right attitude.
Nowhere that statement has come right now, up till now, what we have read. It is there in Prabhupada's purport, we have already read it.
Krishna consciousness.
That statement Prabhupada has not made in this purport, we have not read it. Already Prabhupada has made that statement in the purport. You have to just refer. Plain living and high thinking. Simple living and high thinking helps us to move from the Bhairanga Shakti to the Antaranga Shakti. That is why Prabhupada is making that point there. I hope you were able to catch it, right? So simple living and high thinking helps us to move from the Tatastha Shakti, which is now caught in the Bhairanga Shakti, to go towards the Antaranga Shakti. Now, right now, what is happening? We are sometimes in the Antaranga Shakti. And within the Antaranga Shakti, we go into the Bhairanga Shakti. That means Kirtanam is what? Shravanam is what? Devotional service. It is the Antaranga Shakti of the Lord. But then still sleep troubles us, right? Right? So Bhairanga Shakti influence is there, the modes influence are there. So we are battling with the modes. So we are always like the pendulum. Morning program. We are in the Antaranga Shakti. When we go out, the Bhairanga Shakti catches us. The modes influence us. Yes. We all have experience, na? When we are in the temple, sometimes we don't feel any distress. And we hear nice Krishnata, but when we go out, the problems of life catch us, right? So we are always swinging like a pendulum. And only when the jiva moves under the Antaranga Shakti. Mahatmanastu mam partha daivim prakritim ashrita. Bhajante ananya manaso gyatva bhutadim avayam. Satatam kirtayanto. So why we cannot do satanta kirtayanto, mom? What is the reason? Satatam kirtayanto, mom, why we cannot do?
We are always under the.
Yeah, we are not under the internal Shakti. The Bhairanga Shakti is acting as an obstacle for us. We come under the influence of the Bhairanga Shakti. So that is why they display their natural constitutional activity. This is a natural constitutional activity to love Krishna. That is Yatanta said. This is described in Bhagavad Gita. Prabhupada quotes the same verse. O son of Prata, those who are not deluded, the great souls, Mahatmas, are under the protection of the divine nature. Daivim Prakritimashta. They are fully engaged in the devotion service because they know me as a supreme person. Kyatva Bhutadim Amayam. Original and exhaustive. Bhajante Ananya Manasu. This is Ananya Bhakti. Okay. So there are these three energies, Tatastha, Antaranga and Bhairanga. So the Jiva is in between. And Prabhupada in the purport mentions Antaranga Shakti is Srimati Radharani. You know. The word Mahatma refers to those who are broad-minded, not crippled-minded. Crippled-minded persons always engage in satisfying their senses, sometimes expand their activities in order to do good for others through some isms like naturalism, humanitarianism, or altruism. They may reject personal sense gratification for the sense gratification of others, like the members of their family, community, society, either national or international. Actually, all these activities are extended sense gratification from personal to communal to social. So there is personal sense gratification, and then there is what? extended sense gratification. But both are sense gratification. These activities may be very good from the material point of view, but they have no spiritual value. Arjuna did not want to fight because not for personal sense gratification, but for extended sense gratification. He wanted to see all his family members alive and happy. And he is ready to die unarmed, even if they come and kill him. But this is all what? Nice from the material point of view, but it has no spiritual value. The basis of such activities is sense gratification, either personal or extended. Only when a person gratifies the senses of the Supreme Lord can he be called a Mahatma or a broad-minded person. Okay, it's 1 o'clock. We'll stop here. We'll continue this discussion. The first thing. Any clarifications you have? Any comments? Any questions? So we will be meeting now on Monday, right? Monday. Today is Friday, right? Tomorrow is a holiday for you, right? Okay, so we will continue this discussion on Monday. श्री उपदेशामृत की जय, श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय। हरे कृष्ण।